Hiya there. So today I'm just having a little walk through some woodland. Beautiful little woodland area right here. This is Clumber Park. Perfect semi-quiet place apart from the tourists. Numerous little side paths. These paths that I'm on here would normally be overgrown with the vegetation, but seeing as it's still just the beginning of spring, the paths, the very narrow paths, are quite clear. As you can see, so this is a nice little area. People have made some shelters in this area as well. Well, one shelter here, just there, that thing. The sort of thing that people living in forests would have done as the first types of shelter that we would have made if we were out in the open. Most of the times we used caves. It's very simple. Of course, maybe other things would have been strewn across the top of it to shelter it even more. So people came and did these things in the past. But of course, we no longer have any need to do that anymore. Well, for the majority not. The homeless, maybe that sort of thing may be still useful. But again, they don't neither. They tend to just stay in a city centre that is probably worse than that situation. So coming to the busiest area of this park now, probably a little bit more busy because of more people are just coming back to their vehicles to move off again, so a little bit noisier than usual. But yeah, so this is coming into a little opening just here over from the woods. So this is the opening here. You've got these little paths off in all directions. Quite a wonderful day, really. Most of the narrow paths are not occupied by people, so it's a beautiful, gorgeous little place for a wander around without interruptions. And there is more bird activity here than there are within the towns, definitely by far more, even though it's quiet. More natural activity, more undergrowth as well, so that anything that is wild will actually be hidden around here and staying out of sight of humans, knowing, as they mostly do now, that it is not safe to be out while humans are about. Although the worst humans are the humans that do come out to these places at night, because many of them are people that are specifically after catching what wildlife there is around here, and not just catching but killing. So we take a look around here. Fantastic. So we have I'll go on to a little report now about a scientific study that came out from Germany. It was in the last couple of weeks that newspapers have picked up because of they happen to have found one dubious hole in a vegan argument, which it isn't, of course. Now, because of the newspapers have brought it up, they have concentrated on the only part of the scientific investigation that are focused on one specific topic, be it bone density. Now, the report itself investigated by far more than just bone density, but the newspapers really doubled down on that one little area because they did not want to talk about the rest of the report. The rest of the report had more numerous beneficial sides to the vegan story than they would have wanted to report. So, because when they put it in their papers, the majority of people only read what they report, it leaves it open. It leaves it open to them to sort of push a untruthful message. Now, the actual difference in the bone densities between which it was between 36 vegans and 36 non-vegans, and this basically came down to an extremely small difference in the end, actually, and two separate bone scans were done with two separate machines, and one machine saw no difference whatsoever, whereas a even more dense this going down to minuscule, beyond eyesight level findings, found the difference with the other machine, which was extremely more able to see a more smaller scale. So in actual fact, the actual difference basically made no difference whatsoever as to the bone density in vegans or non-vegans. Not on any health scale. Certainly doesn't even report that there is a difference, even though there is a difference between vegans and non-vegans when it comes to bone stuff. And the one single thing that constantly has been shown up, that when it comes to bones, osteoporosis does not happen as much in the vegans as it does in non-vegans. In non-vegans, almost everybody starts to break down with osteoporosis. Now, the bone density thing again, it came down to when they looked at how long the vegans had been vegan. They had some vegans that had been vegan only about 3 and a bit years, and others about 7 years, 5, 6, 7 years, whatever. But when it came to vegans that were 8 years or more, their bone density was more dense than the non-vegans, and that counted for every one of the vegans that were above 8 years had been 8 years vegan or longer. So it's quite a devastating report if the newspapers and the mass media had reported the actual truth about this report. There were numerous markers that were recorded in the report, numerous markers that put the vegan health at by far clearer and better than they were suggesting. Take the B12 and vitamin D, two of the vitamins that are often cited by non-vegans as a problem for vegans. In both those two vitamins, the vegans were in a superior condition to the non-vegans. Both vitamin D and B12 was better in the vegans than the non-vegans, and this in this same report, but not reported by the mass media that has this total dislike for veganism. And it's a irrational dislike, because when it comes down to everything, health, environment, anything, not harming animals is better for us in every way possible. And the people constantly pushing this anti-vegan agenda, and it is an agenda, are actually causing all of us more harm than we should ever be having. Of course, our general well-being that has occurred over this last half century has made us feel confident. We feel that we're doing right, even while eating animals and killing animals, but we're not. Because if you look at all the data that's coming out at all times, we are in the wrong. Humanity is not doing us any favours in resisting this news, this information, in bringing out these false stories. That is basically the same way that the tobacco industry did for decades to protect smoking. And like the tobacco industry, it was done with the support of a general public that just did not know and do not know now. So we know that is, we know what we can do, we know what we can change, we know full well that because of our immoral acts towards animals and life in general on this planet, that this immorality and acts is what is causing us major problems now in many different areas of life. Now they don't seem to be serious because we've developed so much that we can we override many of the difficulties. But the difficulties are becoming stronger than the preventions that we're trying to introduce. And they will do eventually, because this world cannot sustain a human population that is constantly ravaging the natural resources, ravaging the land. Yeah, we're ravagers, and we will not survive if we carry on as we are. I'll let it stand at that to explain a little bit.